Welcome back to the Views from the Gravel Lab podcast. It is episode 15. Preseason has concluded. The regular season is less than 2 weeks away now, and there's a lot of excitement for us Bills fans and NFL fans around the league. I want to first start saying geez, that I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so just bear with me. My voice might be a little congested, so just bear with me. But we're gonna basically go around
We
and
have injuries
start.
even on the damn podcast.
I know. Injuries are affecting everybody in the Western New York area, apparently. So, we're going to go around, basically discuss each position group, give our prediction, give our 2 cents on that group, and basically go over it and discuss it. Just a brief overview of each room, what we think of it. We do have some interesting conversations to be had about some of these roster bubble players. And so, yeah, I'm going to start by kicking it over to Mike to talk about the quarterback room which is obviously a very interesting discussion now with Mr. Trubisky's health being an issue. Obviously, his knee, I think it is dealing with some issues. Obviously, it's wrapped up. He might not be ready for week one. He might be an injured reserve candidate, and you have to put him on the shelf for 4 weeks, and that brings the question: who's going to be the backup quarterback for those 4 weeks? So I want to turn it over to you. Who do you think it's going to be? What does the room look like? And what do you think of that?
Well, I think Ben DiNucci is going to be the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay, I agree. That's totally
Yeah.
rational. Yes.
But yeah, obviously Josh Allen, he exists. He's there. That's that.
Yeah.
It's the
And
big guy.
I think Ben DiNucci will be the backup quarterback for this team until Mitch Trubisky's ready to come back, just because, he's been in the system for the last couple of weeks now. I feel like they're probably just going to roll with it and trust him unless they can go out and get one of those guys like Kyle Allen or Matt Barkley. But at that point, why not just risk it for the biscuit and see if Ben DiNucci, if God forbid we ever have to see him play in a Bills uniform, cannot totally shit the bed.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation to have. Obviously, it's probably not going to end up having any relevance on the season because Josh is usually pretty
Hope
good with
not.
his health.
I hope we never see any of these people ever.
Yes, agreed. And so it honestly could just not matter at the end of the day. But I put in my roster prediction Kyle Allen. You had mentioned his name. He's somebody who's had experience with Joe Brady last year, was in the same room with Joe Brady. He kind of knows the system, not to the full extent that, he did last year because it was sort of Ken Dorsey's system that was, wrinkled with by Joe Brady, but now it's fully Joe Brady's system. I do think Kyle Allen would be probably my top choice just in that regard alone. We're not talking about a guy that's going to be the backup quarterback for 2-3 years. This is going to be a guy who's going to come in a pinch just to hold a
For a
clipboard.
month or two.
Right. This isn't going to be somebody who's we're going to see for the foreseeable future. So I get it. Danucci just a short term thing. He knows the system. I respect it. So yeah, it pretty much covers the quarterback room. Not much to talk about. We have Josh Allen. So I'm going to turn it over to Trent and kind of shift our focus to the backfield now. And there's some interesting names. Frank Gore had a really solid finish to the preseason. He's a name to watch. But I'm curious who you have in your 53-man roster.
All right. James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Reggie Gilliam. Don't get fooled by the last preseason running back games. Next question.
Damn.
No, I
You
get
think
it.
Frank Gore makes a
Sure.
roster?
He probably makes the Bills practice squad like Christian Wade did.
You don't think he'll make like any other NFL team's roster even as an RB3?
No. Again, he's RB 4 or 5.
Don't sleep on the Niners.
Just for the heritage?
No,
Yeah,
really though.
okay.
I'm dead serious. I mean, Christian
Why not
McCaffrey's
the-
dealing with a quad. They have Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell can't stay healthy. So if
They-
Elijah Mitchell can't stay healthy and CMC has to miss some time, there's just Jordan Mason.
Don't forget about Isaac Guerrero. It was their
Good
fifth
point.
round
Good
pick.
point. Good point.
But I no, I get what you're trying to say. I get the whole connection there. As far as Frank Gore making a roster, it's an interesting case because it's like preseason. Like, I'm not gonna go. I don't think teams are gonna sign a running back unless he shows like absolutely like, okay, this guy has to be on a roster. He has the juice. Like, I don't think we're certain enough with Frank Gore to be like, okay, he's making a 53-man roster. He should be over.
I think we're uncertain
experienced
enough
players.
about it though either.
Yeah, but it's like at the end of the day, like we're talking about a
I feel more
depth running back.
confidence in that Chiefs running back that stiff armed half that defense. I
What
was
is that,
watching
Carson
He's-
highlights of.
Steele? Tungsten
Yeah, he's
Steel.
gonna make the roster.
Yeah,
He's
That
gonna be
yeah,
was
their
that was
I'd
backup.
give
nutty.
yeah, like that's called bringing the juice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. Like
Yeah,
Dawson Knox.
I get that. I get that for sure. I think he does land on the practice squad. He was in. I didn't list my practice squad predictions because I think it was irrelevant, but I do think he ends up landing on the Bills practice squad.
Come on, we are the lone Bills podcast. I started listening to more of them. We are the lone Bills podcast that talks about Richard Garage. Are you telling
Yeah.
me that you didn't list the practice squad candidates?
Unfortunately, not today. We're not going to talk about Richard
Not
Garage
ever.
that
Not
much.
fucking ever.
Yeah. I do want to make a quick side note about Frank Gore. The funny thing I notice a lot of people talking about is his game and how he plays. You know who he reminds me of a lot is Devin Singletary, just in their mannerisms, the way he runs. Like there's their body type, like there's a lot of similarities there. So like yeah,
Don't sleep on the
practice
Giants
squad.
either.
Yeah, like
Bang.
shelving a guy. I'm saying like, he's young, he's juice. I think if a guy goes down mid-season, you could do a lot worse than Frank Gore. As your running back four, sure, fine. Works for me.
I mean, we got Darrington Evans, right?
No,
Like,
no.
I'm good.
I'm gonna pass on that.
we,
Yeah.
we- technically, Darrington Evans is ahead of Frank Gore Jr. on the depth chart. So,
Till tomorrow at 4 when Darrington
Yes,
Evans doesn't
correct.
have a job.
And he'll be
and
signing a
neither will
futures
Frank Gore.
contract with
They'll
the
both be
CFL
unemployed.
team. Yeah. I guess we'll shift gears now.
Take their
Talk
ass
about
out to
the
Hamilton.
yeah. We'll see you in the
Bye.
Argonauts. Um, Receivers. This is an interesting discussion. I think I'm going to let you guys talk about this briefly as well, just because the depth of the room is sort of interesting. I had, really thought about the Bills receiver room at length. What does it look like this year? How are these guys going to be utilized? And I came away with a lot of question marks. And, when I really think about it, you have Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman. Like these are all guys that are going to be used in the intermediate short areas of the game. Like Keon Coleman's a big slot. He's not going to separate deep. He's going to be used on, in breaking routes, curls, you name it. And then Curtis Samuel's never been a deep ball guy. He doesn't have the catch radius to do it. Doesn't have the ball tracking ability. Really hasn't shown it. I mean, he could be, I guess, if you had to pick anybody. And then obviously Khalil Shakir is your pure slot guy. And then you even include a guy like Dalton Kincaid, who's going to win it over the middle of the field, settle in the zones, sort of, be that underneath safety valve for Josh in most cases. So, like, who is that vertical field stretching guy? And like at the end of the day, I look at this roster and like the only player that can realistically fill that need is MVS. And like even if MVS, it's gonna sound really mean, but it's true. If MVS is butt naked 50 yards down the field and is wide open, are
It's
we
gonna be like
sure?
Trent's
Can we
phone on
even
the first
trust?
intro.
Can we even trust him to catch the ball? And that's gonna be our primary vertical threat for Josh Allen? Are you kidding me? I think the team needs to go out and acquire a player. So I have Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Mac Hollins, and I have him trading for former Carolina Panther, shocker, Terrace Marshall Jr. Um, Sort of like a ball clay. I'd rather have them use that vertical threat on a guy like Marshall who's younger, sort of has some untapped potential. And he's played with Joe Brady at LSU. He's played with him at Carolina. There's ties there. He knows the player better than most coaches ever have. So why not give him a chance with one of the best quarterbacks in the league and see if there's something there? Because I'd much rather have him be that vertical threat than an MVS where you really just can't trust. I know
I
MVS has
think it's
made some
gonna be
big
Mac
plays.
Hollins.
Yeah, it could. I mean, he's somebody I already kind of had locked in.
No,
Um,
yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying vertical
I'm
threat. I
just
feel
like
like,
vertical threat. I feel like Hollins he can do that, but I feel like his specialties are gonna be in like those deep digs, those crossing routes. Like I
right.
don't think he's gonna ever be a burner per se, but he can win like 20, 25 yards. I'm thinking more along the lines of like straight deep ball. Like that's kind of what Gabe Davis was for the Bills, and I don't think they ever really replaced that role, which is the kind of the concerning part about this receiver room. And I have a lot of faith and confidence in this room. It's just that part of the room. I'm just like, who's gonna do that? And that's why I kind of picked Marshall, just as sort of like a dart throw and see if he can land. But I don't know. Did you guys kind of come to the same conclusion that the Bills needed that need, or do you kind of see MVS sticking around?
Try it. You can go.
MVS gonna stick around. I love them to go get Mechie or Jahan Dotson or like
Dotson's already got traded.
He's already got
it,
traded.
that's why I said I wanted to.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They're not going to trade for anybody.
No.
Tyrell Tabor's going to be your sixth wide receiver. Just buckle in, boys. This is what's going to be.
Yep.
Like I don't see him doing anything.
I
Like
don't either, but I would like to hope that they would at least have asked about Mechie.
I
Yes.
I feel
mean,
like, I mean,
that's
God,
They need to be
there's
in
no
on those
room for him on the
conversations.
Texans,
you know what's going
and
to be
he's
funny is
inexpensive and a lot of potential.
it's going to be funny because we're going to be like, oh, Texas got like 8,000 receivers, and we're going to end up with Robert Woods again.
Oh boy.
Dude,
Don't
they
get me wrong,
really do
I
though.
love
They really
Robert
do.
Woods.
They
They
do
got the
have a lot
top
of receivers.
three, then they have Mechie. Noah Brown has to make that roster. Noah
Yes.
Brown is not a Houston Texan tomorrow. I don't give a fuck. They better go get him.
Yes.
I don't care.
Absolutely.
I don't care if you give Noah Brown $4 million. Go get Noah Brown. Noah Brown has the biggest boom potential on this roster when it comes to all of a sudden we're looking up and it's week 4 and Noah Brown's got 7 catches for 163 yards.
Noah
You need
Brown,
Noah
yeah,
Brown to
that's
be
the
the
thing
spot.
about like Noah Brown has those kind of games where it's like, whoa. Like
Holy
you like
shit.
if you're like at a Bills game and like you look at the Jumbotron and look the like the receiving leaders and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what is
He
that
had
guy
one of
doing?
those weeks, but he has like
He
3
he
of those a
does have
year.
those weeks. He does, and it's interesting because he's always kind of been behind really good receivers. You think about his time in Dallas; he was behind. I think he was behind Amari Cooper for a period of time. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb. You're not going to
He
get
was
him.
behind CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup,
Michael Gallup. These are
those guys.
quality receivers, and then you go to a team like Houston, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I mean, and he finally got a wide receiver 3 role, and then even in that role, he succeeded very well.
It was
So yeah,
great.
I like that. And as far as the Texans go, like back to the Mechie conversation, like they have hit since Nick Caserio has taken over as GM and they've drafted receivers. They have hit on every single one of them,
Except for
like in
Xavier
the mid
Hutchinson.
rounds, and he was like later round, I think. So you're thinking about Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and then Mechie really never got a chance
Facts.
because he got leukemia, and it's
Yeah.
like he never really got that chance. He never got his footing right, and it's like if he did, his quarterback was Davis Mills. His development's
I
not going
would
to be good.
rather have Noah Brown than John Mechie.
Yeah, I
One
mean,
million
I
percent.
I would
Noah
take
Brown would be
either one
just
of them.
I would too. But honestly, if we're really gonna, I mean, if we're gonna keep it real, if John Mechie's gonna get traded, it's gonna be to a team that missed out on the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. That's
I
what
was
I think.
thinking like Carolina or
So
something like that.
what?
I think Pittsburgh or New
All
England.
31 other teams in the NFL?
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
but
only
no,
a
I mean
Package
handful of
seriously,
teams
Pittsburgh.
that can
I
go in on
really,
Ayuk.
I think if Noah Brown gets signed to this roster, I feel really, I feel a lot better.
You feel
I
safer.
feel,
Yeah,
yeah, I really do. I feel like it brings that floor up just a little bit, and they need it.
yeah,
'Cause there's
definitely.
not too high of a ceiling.
There isn't,
Really low
and it's
floor, very mid ceiling.
yeah. That's the problem right now. There's really no, like I said, there's really nobody to take a top off the defense. And we're talking about not just any quarterback. We're talking about Josh Allen. Like you have to
Hmm.
Yeah.
tap into that arm, no matter what, if it's a reset season or what. Like you have to use that. And right
You can't just
now,
waste it.
I just don't have any confidence in any receiver really stretching the field
Well, I
for the
mean,
Bills.
I watched enough Keon Coleman highlights to know that if he
No,
had a quarterback that didn't have a noodle, he got separation on those college corners.
it's college corners we're
Nice. He
talking
got
though.
separation on our local mailmen. That's
Yeah,
fucking
like
awesome.
really the thing with Keon, like I don't even think it could
He
be
wasn't
argued. It's
playing the
like
MAC. There's a
he
difference.
he was going up against just weak, like I'm not weak talent. He's just like he's not separating deep. That's just not how Keon's gonna win. It's just it's yeah, it's an interesting conversation because a lot of these guys are typically slot
Oh,
players.
don't get me
So
wrong. I still think they need a deep threat, but
I'm all in on Noah Brown now. I am all in.
you
This
know
just needs to happen.
when I was thinking about
Six
it,
foot
because
two, 225. Give me that. Give me that shit. Please. I'm begging you. I'm begging you,
when I
Dean.
was
I'm
thinking
fucking
about
you're
it,
gonna get KJ Hamler and you'll like it.
no, please
I
don't
won't
even
like it.
start. He was,
Eat your
KJ
eat your
Hamler needs to be a
KJ
running
Hamler
back.
and Tyrell Shavers, and you will enjoy it.
All right.
Unfortunately, you're probably
I
right.
guess we'll move on here. We'll go to the tight end room. This I think the only question mark is really that third spot. Is it going to be Morris or Davidson? This is Mike again here. Um, who do you think makes it? Morris has been in the room for a couple years now. Zach Davidson has some nice athletic traits. we obviously know Kincaid's going to be the guy. Knox is going to be
I
your,
think
12
Quentin
personnel
Morris is a
guy.
lock to make this
I
roster. They don't
agree.
need another
I agree.
athletic tight end. You already have one of the most freaky athletic tight ends in Dawson Knox, and Dalton Kincaid is
Mhm.
Dalton Kincaid.
Right.
You need that
Yeah,
prototypical blocking tight end on fucking,
exactly.
and he could play some special teams. Makes sense.
And the thing with Quentin Morris is like he's not a bad red zone option either. We've seen him make plays for the Bills in
He's
the red
okay.
zone, so
Yeah.
he's solid.
I appreciate the Bills having as many players from the MAC as possible on the football team.
Right.
Return to the Mac.
I guess UB just
Can't
breeds
go-
talent. What can I say?
Hey, look, Maction
Can't,
is magic.
it is.
To
Cam
win,
Lewis,
Action
he's there.
magic.
Jamarcus Ingram, Joe Andreessen. I think that's it. But that's three
Nope. Reggie
minus
Gilliam from the University of Toledo.
Oh yeah, you're
Why do
right.
you know that?
That's insane.
Like seriously, why the hell do you know that? How do you know that?
What do you mean? I
If
watch
we
college
ever turn
football
this, if
for the
we ever go on
MAC.
like a podcast like fucking Jeopardy, I'm bringing you with me.
Yeah, we're
Listen,
winning
I only
every time
watch
with
the
Trent.
MAC. I don't watch the ACC. You want your ACC. You want your
You're watching fucking
Pac-12.
Miami
You
of
want you
Ohio
Pac-12
want
right
your
doesn't even
now.
Big
exist
12.
anymore.
Not me. I want to watch Bowling Green versus Western Kentucky. That is my type of college
Yeah,
football.
you're a lunatic.
Trent, you are the Mac Hollins of this fucking podcast.
Yes.
Meat and potatoes,
That's
fucking no
really
shoes.
insulting. My God.
Nah, Mac Hollins is a cool guy. I would just say it.
Yeah, Mike
Fucking
Collins
Bowling
also
Green
doesn't
versus
wear his
Toledo.
shoes into the mall, so
Yeah, yeah. Good luck
That's
going to the
nasty, man.
Galleria with that. Good luck. You're
You
gonna
got
end up
you
with
got
yes.
some
the
nice
you got
warts
the
on your feet.
dogs out full time. That's put the dogs away.
All right. We'll move to the offensive line. Start talking about tackle. Obviously, Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, pretty much locked in. So that leaves the question: who are going to be the backups? I would assume you'd go Vandemark and Grable. That's what I had. I'm curious what you went with, Trent, and just tell us why.
Yeah. They got Clayton for another year on the reserve thing, so that's don't need to worry about that. Mike, you're wrong once again. I'm going to talk about Richard Garage. He will not make the team. That is
Not
my
gonna make the
analysis
team.
of it.
That's unfortunate. After all of those
Um,
conversations we had, he's not gonna make the
R.I.P.
team.
Fallen Soldier.
he'll be on
Gone
the
but not
practice squad.
forgotten.
Don't you worry.
He
Don't you
will. He
worry,
will.
pal. He'll be on the practice squad. And I hope to God, if the Bills PRs listen to this, please,
Can you send
if
this man a
only one
fucking
player we can
jersey?
interview, I want it to be Richard Garage.
If the Bills PRs listening to this podcast, they have much bigger problems.
Yeah,
I mean, Jesus.
much bigger.
Probably bored at work.
I mean, wow. We're gonna listen to the Views from the Gravelette podcast, and we're gonna listen to
You know what?
Richard
Why
Garage
shouldn't
Days.
they? Why the fuck shouldn't they? All
You know
right,
what? That's a good
we're
point.
like that.
That's
Yeah.
true.
We're like that.
I mean,
We belong.
yeah. I mean,
So,
Bruce exclusive only comes out once a week. You gotta fill
So
the time
Brandon
somehow.
Bean, go get
love
Noah Brown.
Bruce.
Damn it,
Yeah.
Brandon Bean ain't listening to this, man.
you better.
Brandon Bean's gonna make all. What do you mean? Brandon Bean's gonna make all his roster decisions off of what we talk about. So we're good. We're gonna win a
Yeah,
Super Bowl this year
that's why I
because
said
we
you're gonna
acquired
get
Noah
KJ Hamler and
Brown
you'll like it.
and Kyle
I
Allen.
made the
That's why
boss
we won.
call.
Yeah. Back to the tackle talk. I mean, yeah, Brown and Dawkins are interesting to me. I think Dawkins is kind of quietly underrated around the league, because there's so much, tackle talent when you really think about it, and he kind of just gets lost in that mix. He's always been a steady, like, top 15, top 20-ish tackle in the league.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's very solid.
Here's the thing about offensive linemen in general is that, like, aside from the Cowboys and Trent Williams, most people probably don't know who's starting the offensive lines, and if you do, odds are it's like a bell curve. It's either they're really really good or they are really really bad.
Really bad. Yeah.
Deion Dawkins is towards the front end of the really really good, but I mean he's a great tackle. He's a solid franchise left tackle.
Yes.
He did get his shit rocked by Chris Jones, and
He
that did lose the Bills game. Not Stephon Diggs being open. It was Chris Jones rocking Deion Dawkins' world. It happens to the best of us. But And Spencer Brown,
Well,
I
it's
think,
Chris
is just
Jones.
It
Yeah.
is Chris Jones. But I mean, like, that's the thing with Dion.
what did I say?
He's not amazing, but he's good. You know, he gets the job done. And I think you do a lot worse than him. They paid him
Oh yeah.
franchise tackle money. And then, Spencer Brown, who I think took a huge leap, he has all the athletic tools to be, really good. He kind of started to figure it out mentally, and it, showed last year. I do like
Well,
Tylen Grable. He did show a flash,
yeah.
he showed some flashes in preseason. So it's a solid room. The Bills have always done a nice job at investing at depth in that room. And that depth, it carries over to the interior offensive line. Um, you think about it, like, I feel like when you look at all of the offensive linemen the Bills have, there's a solid plan in place for each and every one of them. You go down the tackles. Ryan Vandemark, he's sort of been a swing tackle they've developed for a few years now. He was slotted into that big Week 18 game against the Dolphins for a few snaps. Tylen Grable is sort of like a developmental guy. But when I look at the interior group, I really like the plan they have in place. And here's the group they have. I have making the team. We got McGovern, Torrance, Edwards, Alec Anderson, Cedric Van Granger, and Lyle Collins. Those last three I want to talk about because I like them as depth pieces. The Bills have always had quality depth players in the trenches on both sides of the ball. When I look at what they have, obviously Connor McGovern's an experiment at center. And then you have David Edwards, who really just hasn't played much football over the course of the last 2 years. He's been, the sixth offensive lineman for the Bills, and he hasn't really started. So I think there's a lot of question marks with him and McGovern. But, if McGovern doesn't work out, you can kick him back to guard. And, if, Edwards doesn't work out, you have to kick McGovern back in the guard. But guess who's waiting? Cedric Van Granger, who was, by all accounts, a steal for the Bills. And, this is a team that's done very well on mid-round picks for offensive linemen. You think Spencer Brown, even if you want to go back a couple years now, he didn't stay on the roster, but they saw the talent in Wyatt Teller. Like, you got to know, like, this front office has an eye for that stuff. Granted, they gave up on him early, but they know a good offensive lineman when they see one. And when I look at this group, I see a guy like Cedric Van Granger who's like, okay, he's not the, the best athlete in the world, but he's gonna get out there on screens. He's gonna get out there and move guys around. Um, not at an elite level, but I think, his ceiling is a really quality starting center in the NFL. And then another guy is Lyle Collins, who I think is the biggest wild card of this group because we go back to him as a rookie. He was touted as a really, really good rookie tackle and with the Cowboys. And then he goes, gets paid by Cincinnati, doesn't really work out. He's dealing with injuries. And the Bills basically pay him to be a guard again and move him from tackle to guard because he's just really poor in pass protection as a tackle. Move him to guard, good run blocker. And you gave him a contract to be, what, this could be a steal for us. And the same for Edwards. They gave him a 2-year deal, below backup guard money. Like these are good financial decisions by the Bills. I've always liked what they've done, and especially this year, I like the plan they have in place for the offensive line, not for just this year, but years going forward. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where you guys stand on as far as the offensive line goes. I mean, I'm fairly confident in it. It's not going to wow you, but I would say it's probably around a league average line, which you could do a lot worse than. So
Whoever doesn't make the roster will probably just get traded for a late round pick.
probably. I mean, when you think about it, I would say Garage is probably going to make the practice squad. Shout out to Trent. Um, there's quality. Will Clapp's probably going to make the practice squad. Like,
Fucking shame.
what a legend. He'll stick around. Don't worry.
He needs to be in the
He'll be a
50.
parking lot guy. Don't you worry. Um,
I
but
was just gonna
yeah,
say I'd put
go ahead.
money on Will Clapp being one of those parking lot guys.
He
Yeah, I was
will
gonna say
clap in the parking lot.
he will clap at the parking lot. Absolutely. We'll go to the defense now, and we're gonna stick in the trenches, and we'll go to Trent now and kind of talk about this edge group, which we've talked about at great length on this podcast. I think you have the first four pretty much locked in Miller, Epinesa, Smoot, and Rousseau. But there's that fifth, or maybe you have six guys making it. I want to ask you, Trent, who are those, fifth and sixth rotational guys at that spot?
So I'm gonna throw a little curveball at you. I think they cut Hill, tell him to stick around the parking lot. They put Solomon on injured reserve, and they bring him back. and fifth and sixth is Kingsley Jonathan and Casey Tuhill.
Okay. Yeah, I respect it. Tuchel was kind of a sneaky signing when they made it, and he was injured through camp and never really got a chance. I like that idea. If I was gonna pick between him and Kingsley Jonathan, I'd probably pick Kingsley Jonathan at this point. Just with his knowledge and experience, if I had to pick between the two of them, I'd probably pick Kingsley Jonathan. But yeah, like it's not gonna make a huge difference on the roster. Obviously, we're talking about the fifth and sixth edge rusher. But I
I
get it.
mean,
It's
it honestly makes more difference than what we just talked about, very
right,
realistically, because the
pretty
Bills.
much.
I mean, I think a normal team it doesn't, but the Bills like that they are
They
smart at this.
rotate a lot,
They
definitely.
cycle through a lot of guys. So you will see Kingsley Jonathan, Javon Solomon. Don't want to mispronounce his name. Maybe Casey Tuhill if they keep him around.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I like Solomon. I like he's got great explosiveness.
He does.
Like once
There's
he
a
gets clear of a lineman, there you don't escape him. Which
there's a
I
lot of
think I like.
parallels to Von Miller in terms of like his bend, his get
Yeah,
off. Yeah, like I see that. I see the vision with that.
I think he needs a couple more years in the crock pot,
Mhm.
and then once he's ready to serve, it'll be really good.
Yeah,
But
he's never
yeah,
gonna be like an every down edge rusher just because he's small and he's not built to do that. But I like him. I always like that pick.
and honestly, that might be why Casey Tuhill sticks around. It's because Von
Yeah,
Miller's not going to be that either.
right.
So, I mean, your starting ends are going to be Epinesa and Rousseau. Smoot's going to come in and rotate. And then you have to look at who's going to be after that because Von
Mhm.
Miller at this stage of his career is a third down mercenary.
Right.
I mean, he's not every down anymore.
Yeah.
If he's,
I
I mean,
honestly think Von Miller's
I
not
think
going
he's
to be in
got
the
some
top
left.
two in snaps for I would say Russo and Epinesa are above him in snap count.
Oh, yeah, I would say Smoot too.
Smoot can push
I
him
don't think
too.
I don't think Von Miller comes in until it's an obvious passing situation.
Definitely. They have
Why
him.
the
He's
fuck
35
did
years
we?
old. You know,
If
like
Smoot outsnaps Von Miller, Jesus Christ.
I don't
Mike's
think
having a
Smoot will
problem over here
outsnap
with his
him.
fish
I think
tank.
he'll be third. I think he'll be third in snaps.
What's
Look, the
going on in
thing
that fish
is,
tank back there, Mike?
Well, I had a goldfish in the fair that ate 30 of them, but
oh, oh no,
yeah, I'll do it.
that will
Name's
do it.
Sam, ironically enough.
Wow,
Yeah,
we miss
shout
you,
out Sam.
Sam.
Yeah,
It was 2 episodes, same.
shout out Sam.
Um, but anyways, yeah, like it's it's a group I'm not confident in really at all. I mean, like, does Russo? I mean,
What
I
if
feel like
Von Miller's
Russo.
fucking losing snaps to fucking
That's the thing, though.
Smoot?
Like
Are you
Von
shitting
Miller.
me? Yeah, you better not be confident. Anyone outside of this three, you take 50% of Bills fans and ask them if they know who fucking Dwayne Smoot is, the answer is going to be no. Okay? And you're paying Von Miller like $14 million dollars to be fourth in this team's snaps at defensive end? Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me?
Yep. I
Age,
mean,
are you
honestly though,
shitting
Mike,
me?
you say this, but anything he could get a tackle for a loss and play 2% of the snaps, and that will be better than last year. That's just how it
He could
is.
get a tackle in general and it'd be better than
Yep,
last year.
it would
But
be.
but still, I mean shit. But
Yeah.
that's besides the point. Dwayne Smoot getting more snaps than Von Miller is. What is
Look,
this team? What is this team?
like what?
Super Bowl contender, Mike.
How
That's
did
what
we
it
get here?
is.
No, they're not Super. It's like a tough pill for me to swallow, but they're just not. They might not even make the divisional round this year.
Listen, in the NFL, there's only one important thing: a good quarterback. That's it.
It
You
is.
don't
It's
have to
very
have
And
important.
the Kansas City Chiefs sucked ass. They had a pretty good defense. That offense sucked, and they made a Super
did
Bowl.
suck. But do you think they had a guy like Dwayne Smoot out snapping their $15 million pass rusher?
No, they have Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie,
Exactly.
fucking Nick Bolton. Like
Exactly.
they have
Ladarius,
talent.
Ladarius Sneed.
When the Chiefs see this is a brief conversation. I knew it was going to happen because the Chiefs and the Bills get compared all the time, and we're
But
talking
they
about
shouldn't.
they shouldn't. But here's the reality: when the Chiefs went through their mini reset, whatever you want to call it, they gave up on they traded Tyreek Hill, didn't want to pay him much like the Bills did with Stephon Diggs as he's
They had a
aging
top
out.
five defense.
But guess what? the Chiefs didn't give up on every player. They didn't cut every player. They maintained their excellence without having to gut their entire roster because of poor financial
But
decisions.
they didn't
The
even gut their
Bills,
whole roster. They just got
they
rid of
didn't.
Tyreek
That's what I'm
Hill.
saying. They never gutted their roster because they didn't make the mistakes the Bills front office made. They didn't pay Von Miller $120 million. They didn't make these catastrophic decisions, and that's really why the Bills are behind the eight ball.
The
And
Bills
like
made these catastrophic decisions trying to chase the Chiefs.
they were, and then they got lost in it, and they lost sight of what really
We're like
was
the Houston
I want to
most
Rockets. We're
say
important.
like the
I want to
James
say they
Harden
got
Houston
lost in
Rockets.
it.
You got Josh Allen averaging fucking damn near 50, and then you look at the rest of the roster. Can we beat the Warriors? Can we beat
And
the
you got
Chiefs?
Russell Westbrook, who's Stephon Diggs shooting three for fucking
Yep.
25 in the
The answer
playoffs.
is no. The answer is
So
fucking no. And
yeah,
now it's definitely no.
it's
Oh, come on, y'all.
it's
They would have beat the Chiefs last year if Deion
Yeah,
Dawkins
if
gets half a
Tyler
second
of
Ash
score.
didn't
course.
fucking wide right part two.
It's would have,
That did,
could have, should have. That's the conversational every time, Trent. You could say this, say that. At the end of the day, they weren't prepared in that game. They didn't have the players that they should have had going into that game. I know they got gutted, but they didn't. They shouldn't have called on AJ Klein to cover Travis Kelsey in the biggest playoff game that stadium has seen in 25 fucking years. That
you
shouldn't
don't have to
happen.
tell me that
Facts.
twice. I Do you forget the
Like
podcast
I
where I
know where you
ranted
stand
about
as far
Dorian
as that goes,
Williams?
but I'm saying like these decisions they add up,
What
and
was
that's
Dorian
why.
Williams gonna do? I
And
mean, either way, they were fucked. It's just,
that's where
oh
the
my god.
roster's at. That's where the roster's at. That's why the roster's at the state of it is right now because the team was like, these players are aging. They were never good enough to get us over the hump, so we got to reset. And this is where we're at. And this is why we're talking about Dwayne Snoop out snapping Von Miller in 2024.
If
So
that
I
happens,
mean,
I will buy a Von Miller jersey live on this
no,
podcast,
you're
and I will
buying a
burn
Dwayne
it.
Smoot jersey and you're gonna hang it behind yourself for 12 months. All right. Um.
I'll
Y'all a little
Speaking of
support it.
which,
angry. God
speaking
damn.
of which,
All I was saying
linebackers.
was the defensive end room. Holy
Yeah.
crap,
I
y'all.
mean, it
Calm
got passion.
down.
I mean, this is Views from the Gravel Lot, Trent. We bring heated discussion to your living room. Um,
So,
linebacker.
okay.
I want to.
And
Can I
before,
touch on linebacker?
you
So here
want
we
to touch on
go.
linebacker?
Yeah, let's go on linebacker. Let's take care of business here, and then we'll throw in the side notes. Linebacker. All right. This is an intriguing group. It's what was the second strongest position group on the team before Matt Milano tore his bicep. It's unfortunate. It sucks. That's the reality it is right now. Matt Milano's going to miss time, um, and they're stuck with what they got. And I don't think it's a particularly, bad room at all. Terrell Bernard, who I think is underrated league wide, he proved to a lot of people last year that he is a very solid linebacker in the NFL. Um,
He,
and
he,
then
we talk about guys getting contracts a lot. Terrell Bernard got Tyrell Dotson paid.
yes, that's the thing. Like, and to go back, just a little side note, Bobby Babich again, just like develop, like making guys look good, and like that's like I'm hoping that translates to this defense to make up for that loss of talent.
So,
And
so we were talking about aging guys and everything like that.
mm,
I think I've spent half this podcast talking about on defense, a lot of it's instinctual.
yeah,
Like what made Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde so good was that they're not the best athletes, but they have great
they're
football IQ, and McDermott basically just turned them loose.
right.
And I know we're going to get to the linebackers, and I hate to jump in and interrupt, but Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, and Joe Andreessen out of nowhere. I watched those three linebackers play, and my barometer's always been, and Ben, you know this because you've heard me
Hmm.
rant about them a good jillion times. When we had Terrell Edmonds playing linebacker,
For me.
Tremaine Edmonds, what was my number one complaint against him, Ben?
Just not a good tackler. Didn't finish.
No, not instinctual.
Right.
You would see Milano make a play, 49 would be halfway behind him. When
Hmm.
you play linebacker, your first instinct's got to be go.
Right.
And
Tremaine Edmonds got paid $72 million by the Bears because he's literally a fucking alien.
yeah, and he
That's it.
He's a
sucks.
freak.
His
He
IQ of
is
the
a
game
freak.
is not that great.
And you know
No,
what? This funny thing is, his athleticism makes up for a lot of that. He's still not a great linebacker, but his athleticism helps him out in that case.
But if he
I
if
mean,
he
that's why the
had
Bills
if he had
drafted him.
80% of Tremaine or of Terrell
Terrell
Bernard
Bernard.
in the head,
Mhm.
Tremaine Edmonds would be the best linebacker in the game.
Oh yeah,
without a doubt.
we be talking about him and Fred Warner as one and two easily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what I think of. Like he's like that Fred Warner kind of like
because he's physically
even
gifted.
he's even more gifted than Fred Warner. Like,
Yes,
and that's the thing. Like,
1,000,000%.
I'm glad you brought up like that the whole like instinctual thing with the linebackers because that's really where I think the only issue I have with Dorian Williams and like we haven't seen him enough to really see where he's at yet mentally. Like we don't know. We're fans. We're sitting on the outside. Like he essentially redshirted last year, but until he was forced to play. And, like we said, me and Mike had mentioned this on a previous podcast, all the athletic tools you want in a linebacker. And like Trent, you said, he flies to the ball. He shoots gaps. He does it very well. It's just getting over aggressive and dialing it back. And that's what makes Matt Milano that we know.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's why he's so great because he knows when to dial it back. He knows when to toe the line of aggressiveness and over pursuing players, and that's why he's one of the smartest coverage linebackers in the NFL. And so you're not going to replace that, but you have a player in the wings that you can mold and work with now and see where he can kind of grow. Because if you have another linebacker outside of Milano, now they can't get out of Milano's contract. I looked at the dead cap earlier. It's not
How many
possible.
years
I
do you
don't
have
know why
left?
you would.
I think
Why would you
two.
give
I think
why
two.
would you give someone else the best linebacker in football?
Exactly. But I'm saying, like, if he does take a drop off or whatever, you can't get out of it. But I do think having an additional linebacker that can really sub in for a player that's dealt with injuries now for the last 2 seasons is huge. Because then
Yeah.
that lets Matt Milano take a breather. You can still make amazing plays for us, but we can sub in Dorian Williams for you here on like a 2nd and 9 and, not have to be worried about getting gashed every play. I think that's the biggest thing I want to see with Dorian Williams. I want to see growth mentally and speaking of the linebackers, Joe Andreessen, like even in that second game, and I know it's preseason, like how much stock do you really want to put in that? He showed those traits mentally, and for a guy
He
that
showed a
was
lot of technique too.
he
That was
did
the big thing. Is
his
that
run diagnosis
when
was outstanding.
not
It
only his
was
play diagnosis, the biggest thing I came back to is that screenplay where all the stars were in with the
right.
Steelers.
Yep, I know
And
exactly what you're talking about.
he got great leverage on the lineman, which is again, we talk about 49. He stalked to get leverage.
Correct.
If a linebacker got his hands on him, it was over. And Dreesen, for a guy that played literally
He fought
max
through
this
contact.
year, he had great form and
Hmm.
went right to the ball. The lone thing with Andreessen is that he's a little too, like we talked about Dorian Williams last year, a little too trigger happy on when he's
Yeah,
going to
he does
go.
trigger a lot. Yeah. I
But
mean, he's a bit of a shorter guy too. He's kind of
yeah,
like built like that, which isn't a problem. I don't think that's
no,
gonna like hurt his game in any way. But if you want to poke holes in his game, sure. But
I mean we're going to
this is the fourth
he's going to
linebacker for the Buffalo
be
Bills.
he's going to be good depth. Like
So Joe
him,
Andreessen's making the roster.
I think so. And I think it would be malpractice not to put him on the roster for what he showed, especially like Mike, you had made a point like Milano's injury like opens that door up for him. I think if
yeah,
Milano hadn't gotten hurt, it would have been a lot harder for him to make the team.
I don't think he
Practice
makes the
squad would
team.
probably been likely. But I think you talk about him, and then I have so I didn't even get to the room. Let's see here. I have five guys making the roster at linebacker. I got Bernard, Dorian Williams, Nick Morrow's that vet in case of emergency, and then I have Andreessen, and then I have the rookie Eddie Olafascio.
Wow.
But what a
Again,
fucking name. What a name.
it's great.
Eddie
It's a great name.
Olafascio. You know what?
It rolls off the tongue perfectly.
Yep.
Like I
What a
love
beauty.
saying his name,
What a stallion.
Olafascio.
Absolute
I'm
stallion.
gonna let you say his name because I'm going to butcher it. So
You're good. I can't even pronounce his first name. That's why I call him Eddie. So yeah, I mean, like you said, like much like I talked about with the offensive line, this is a room that's deep, and when Milano comes back, I'm very comfortable. So like if there was an injury, God forbid, a major injury happened on this team, it's linebacker because they have the depth, at least the young potential to really to see if these guys can do it, and I really like that. So. Yeah, it's a hard position, obviously. Trent, you know all too well about it. It's a tough position to play. The angles, a lot goes into it, and I'm confident in this room. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near where we're going to be with Milano, but I do think they're not going to be bad either. So I think you got to be patient with this room, especially like a lot of Bills fans are going to watch the game on week 1 and they're going to just point fingers or whatever. Be patient with these. This is a young group. This is going to take some time, and I think it's going to be a little slow out of the gates. So I don't think we'll see the max effect of this defense until at least November. Um, we'll
Fair
move
enough.
on now. So we'll go to corner, and again, a room that's very deep. Um, I have confidence in this room. It, I don't even know how I want to put it. It's it's I'm confident in its overall, but there's really just no guy,
Star
like
power.
a top
I
guy.
mean, Douglas could be the top guy
He
though.
could be,
Brazil's
but
the
when you
top
think
guy.
of Rasul
But
Douglas,
oh,
like
oh,
he's
hold on a second here.
I'll let you go.
Do you consider Taron Johnson the will linebacker or the corner? Because if you consider him the corner, he's the guy.
No, he's not. He's your third linebacker.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
I mean, Taron Johnson makes the case for being one of the smartest players in the NFL. Like
Taron
what he
Johnson's
does for this defense,
that
he
that
make
that football that got beamed at his head gave him like
he
you
gave him
know how like the
superpowers. I
Spider-Man
mean,
story is that he got bit by a spider, became
yeah,
Spider-Man. Taron Johnson got hit in the head with that football, and all of a sudden became the world's like most freakish corner ever to play
Nickel
football.
corner ever.
yeah.
He's a will linebacker.
So like
He's
that's the
6 foot,
thing.
190
When you
pounds, playing
go
will linebacker.
when you go to say he's the guy, he's a nickel. A nickel corner can't be the guy for your defense. That's just
No,
not possible.
no.
He can do a lot. He does have a domino effect on defense. I will agree with you. Like he does a lot for this defense. He does a lot of heavy lifting. If they didn't have Taron Johnson, this defense would go from average to even good to really bad. I think he does a
Yeah,
lot, and
I don't want to
especially
think
for
about
we're
the.
talking about who's going to be replacing him: Cam Lewis, Daquan Hardy.
Yeah, it
It's
became
not
Lewis.
pretty. No thanks. So
It
if there was an
became
injury to
Lewis
this
and Joe
team,
Andreessen.
he's the other than Josh Allen, he's the last guy I want getting hurt because he's tasked with a lot. But again, it's a nickel. He can't be the guy. So Trent, who do you have making the roster at corner? Obviously, we talked about Rasul Douglas. You got Christian Bedford, but I'm curious to see who your other names are.
Um, I I guess Kyrie Elam,
Good
Jamarcus
guess.
Ingram, Daquan Hardy.
Mm-hmm. That's
Uh,
what I had.
yeah, I mean, when we talk about it as being deep, it's not really deep.
Actually, you're right because I'm looking at it. I'm like, what was I saying? That's not true.
But why do you think I was doing this?
Yeah,
You,
in years past,
technically,
it's been
there's a
deep.
lot of guys there, so you're not wrong.
There
Like
is a lot of guys there. There is. That's one way to put it.
a pool can be deep even if there's no damn water in it.
Yeah. You
Oh,
want to
fair
jump in that
enough. What a
pool?
line.
I
What
guess
a
the Bills
fucking line.
do.
I'm gonna jump in
Um,
that pool after fucking Smoots. Fucking
yeah, I think we all did. I think the
Might as
viewers
well
at home
have had
did.
that glowing toaster behind him at this rate.
Um, yeah. So you talked about Douglas, Benford, and Johnson. Where does Elam fit in? Because when I go down the list of these corners, and you think about it, Phil Douglas he's his own corner. He's not winning in man coverage. He will get burned in man coverage. That's the thing with Russell Douglas. That's why Green Bay got him because he's a zone heavy corner. The Bills acquired him because he plays the quarters, quarter, half, a lot of zone. Then you got Christian Benford, who's been okay in man coverage, And then Taron Johnson, obviously we know he's a sticky corner. He does a very nice job at that, but it's a nickel. He's not going to be playing
He's
on
your
the
man.
outside against the
Kyrie Elam's your
fastest
man
receivers.
coverage specialist.
That's what I was
I'd
going
say
to say.
Yeah.
He's
I'd
going
say
to be
Kyrie
used in
Elam
those
plays the
situations.
exact same role Dane Jackson played last year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Because
Like
I'm telling you
there's
right
not,
now, if this was a man defense, Kyrie Elam would be looked at a
Yes.
much different
this was a
level.
man defense. Your starting safety be Christian Benford.
I
Okay.
don't even know. I mean, like
I'm not doing this shit
the
right off
safety
bat.
talk with Christian Benford needs to stop. He's a corner. Like he's proven that they drafted a safety for a reason, and they paid three safeties for a reason. He's not going to be safety.
All right, let's move to the safeties.
Yeah. Speaking of which, safeties. It's a group that's been banged up and has not gotten a ton of work in reps. Like we saw a lot of the backups playing. Cough cough. Damar Hamlin was playing as a starter for the majority of the preseason OTAs. I don't think he's going to start. I just think that was really what they had to do. Taylor Rapp, Mike Edwards seem to be the guys. I'm curious to see who fits in your puzzle, Mike. Obviously, you got Cam Lewis,
Obviously,
sort of a
Cole Bishop's going to
hybrid.
be in there and Cam
Yep.
Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think your it's going to be five safeties. It's going to be Rapp, Hamlin, Lewis, Bishop, and Edwards.
Hmm.
pretty amazing that DeMar Hamlin's just gonna fucking make this roster again. Okay, he
Yep.
Not only
should
make
not
this
have made it
roster,
last year.
there's a
I know
good
he's
chance
probably
he's
gonna
the week
start.
one
He's probably
starter.
gonna.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Like,
I'm
I'm
gonna
looking
get
at some depth
really
charts.
fucking mad
I'm
thinking
looking at
about
some
this
depth
shit.
charts. They have listed your starting safeties as Taylor Rapp and DeMar Hamlin.
I
Don't do
know.
this to me.
And
Don't
I
do this to
don't
me right
want
now.
DeMar. Why is DeMar? You
What
know
time
why
is it?
though? Because DeMar Hamlin's literally gonna come out. Let's say he plays the first 4 games. He's gonna get a bunch of tackles, a lot of media coverage. He's gonna look fucking sick. The reality, DeMar is butt. All right, he is not good. He's okay. He's decent.
I would,
Right?
yeah, I wouldn't say he's bad. I would say
No, but
he's,
he's okay.
yeah,
He's
But
not a
he is.
starting
I
safety in the NFL. He's
no
not.
no,
ever nowhere, nowhere, nowhere.
he's
Okay,
as
Mac,
much
calm down.
as I like riling you up. I agree with you. He's not a starting safety. He's a backup safety, and those are important. You need backup
You
safeties.
do.
But the Buffalo Bills have 5 backup safeties on their
And we're
roster.
talking about safety, though, for the Bills. This is in Sean McDermott's defense, safety is probably the most important position. For all the communication that goes on for a team that runs heavy zones, there's a lot of, work that needs to be done back there communicating. We talk about, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Hello, Mac. How you doing? For all those years, like, Mac knows, like, DeMar Hamlin should be starting. And
Is DeMar Hamlin ass?
I will throw this. I'll throw this to
Yes.
you. If the injuries were still pretty bad, I would not have been surprised if Micah Hyde got signed.
Why isn't Micah Hyde on this team?
Because
I
I don't
don't
think
know how
that,
it
I
hasn't happened
mean,
yet.
What did he
really,
do to not? What has he done in the last 365 days worse than DeMar Hamlin?
because you're not bringing Micah Hyde in back up.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
No,
I
but
feel
Micah
like
Hyde could start. Why can't Micah Hyde start over Taylor Rapp? Why can't Micah Hyde start
well,
over Mike
first
Edwards?
of
Because
all,
Micah Hyde's
Taylor
lost a
Rapp's.
step and
If we're
his
gonna
neck
talk
is
about Hyde
failing him.
starting, I think he's gonna only start under the circumstance that one of these safeties are done for the year.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Bishop they want to start this year. Like they like redshirting a lot of guys. I don't think they want to use him as in the starting capacity full time. I think they want to deploy him in certain situations, in certain matchups, and use him that
Then
way,
why is
sort
he
of like
not
a,
on this team?
a Swiss Army
Because
knife.
he's not
But
backing up.
he's
He
not
doesn't
going to be a
have
backup.
to. He should start.
No,
No,
I don't
not one
know.
safety on this team is better than Micah Hyde right now.
I
Not
really
one.
don't. I don't know, Mike. I would say it's pretty much dead even right now. And we're talking about a guy who has had a few like very scary health scares. Like if he's gonna sign with a team, it's got to make sense not only for him to do it. Like if he's gonna play for this team, he needs to be certain that they're gonna be competing for a Super Bowl in the year. Are we certain of that?
Oh,
No.
I think he's stated
I think
he's
he's
either
pretty
going to
much
play for
checked
the Bills
out.
or he's done.
He did say
So
that. Like, and I don't
Then I
see
guess he's
the
done.
appeal for him to play for the Bills. He doesn't have guaranteed playing time. And like as much as you may like or not like that, that's the reality.
But that's
And
just crazy.
I don't think it's
I would be
That's
willing to
that
bet, Mike,
crazy. I
is
don't think it's
it's
that
moderately
crazy.
crazy.
if there's
They
still injuries on this team, I would be willing to bet that like week 13 they sign him.
Yeah.
So I thought at first the same thing you thought. Why isn't he starting? And then more I thought about it as we talked about this, more I realized that maybe he realizes there might just be maybe 1 year left in him,
Right.
and maybe not even a full year. So maybe it's just simply like if they get to week 11 and they still have
you really want to march Micah Hyde out there in week 11?
See, that's the thing though. Like he can fit in seamlessly. Like you don't
Yes,
need
he
him
can,
to
but like
play
Micah
week
Hyde's
one.
sitting on the couch for 8 months, then you want to call him at week
Oh,
11?
he ain't gonna be sitting on the couch.
Oh no. So I mean like you can poke holes in the safety room, sure. It's not good. It's probably the worst safety room in the NFL when you think about it.
Because not one of these 5 dudes that's going to make the roster would start on another NFL team.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't say that, Mike.
I don't know. Mike Edwards started
Mike, there's
for
a
the
lot
Super
of
Bowl.
bad football teams out
Let's
there.
not forget, Mike Edwards started for the Super Bowl champions last
And
year.
you know where
All
he's
right,
at on the depth chart
Did
right
he?
now? He's number 5 on the depth chart.
Mike Edwards is a starting safety for the Bills week one. I don't know what you're talking about. Um,
I'm reading it right here. Depth
because
chart.
he's been
Anyway,
hurt. He's
here's
not.
the kicker.
Yeah. Kicker.
We still gotta talk special teams.
Unfortunately, we do. Obviously Sam Martin and Reed Ferguson. But Tyler Bass has been an interesting,
Tyler S.
yeah. I've been getting into it with people, Twitter, Instagram, what have you, over the past few weeks about Tyler Bass. And I put up a post and it said, how confident are you in Tyler Bass on a scale of 1 to 10 going into the season? And I would say probably 2 or 3. We're talking
Ooh,
about a guy, you know, he was paid big money to be a good kicker for the Bills, but he's never been like top kicker in the NFL. He's been close, but he's not been. I don't think
You
he's
already
never been a
paid him.
top five kicker. You
You
have,
already paid him.
and here's the reality:
but what
he
what what
was
do you find as a top
20.
five kicker? I mean,
What
he
do I
made
define
long
as a
field
top five
goals
kicker? No, he's not consistent at all from deep, at all.
last
I
last couple of years. I'll agree with you.
last
Like,
last yeah, I
Well,
mean that's the
his
thing.
career's only been a couple of years.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
exactly. Like he was like in the 20, he was like 21st, maybe 25th in field goal percentage last year. That's not acceptable. Like for a team
No,
that's going for rings, you need that guy to be reliable and you need that guy to drill those kicks from deep. And yes,
Because Harrison
Tyler
Butker's
Bass,
hitting that shit.
he is. And Tyler Bass, he didn't lose us the game, but he didn't
He
win it
didn't
for us
win it
either.
either. He didn't win it.
So like we're talking. I mean, I saw that kick. It was against the Panthers this week. That long kick, and it just looked ugly. It was just like this guy has no confidence from deep, and we have all this conversation about the holder. When is it time that we just talk about Tyler Bass just not being a good kicker? Because I think that's really what the reality is. And early in his career when he was a rookie, I believed in him. I thought he was going to be really good. He had a good start to his career, but it's just gone downhill. And I think a lot of kickers, comes into confidence, and he missed a huge kick. Like that's the end of it. And
He
like
missed a 44-yarder.
in a playoff game
That's
with your
got to get
season on
hit.
the line, you got to make that. I don't care what the conditions are.
The
Well,
conditions
unless
were
it's like
fine,
a blizzard, like sure,
but it was
but like
fine.
it was fine.
yeah,
It wasn't. I mean,
conditions
Bucker was making
conditions weren't the
kicks.
reason you missed that kick.
You can't make excuses in that situation.
It's all
And
here.
yeah, that's just kind of where I stand on Tyler Bass. Um, Sam Martin's
We're stuck with
fine.
him. We're stuck with
We
him.
are stuck with him, and that's another like I mentioned earlier. These financial mistakes are starting to add up, and
Yep,
it
they
is
are.
really hurting the overall star power of this roster. And we're really starting to see it take effect this year. I truly think in my heart of hearts that Brandon Beane's a great GM, but he does have some really tough misses, and it
A
does
great
hurt.
GM.
Sure, great. My bad. A good GM. He's a good
Okay.
GM.
Okay.
Misuse of words there, but he does have some really ugly misses, and that's just kind of where I sit on it. But yeah,
I mean, Brad Bean did
you
a
want to
lot
add
of
something?
moves to be ahead of the curve. You can't predict Von Miller blowing out his ACL in Detroit. You can't predict Tyler Bass being all of a sudden just you know
Yes.
yeah
Yes,
you can't predict
that's why he's
him
still a
just
good GM.
losing his confidence because
Yeah.
when they signed him it looked great. I think
Hmm.
he hit like 350-yard kicks against the Cardinals in 2021.
Yes, he was really good in that
Like
game. I remember what you're talking about.
that's a grass field. Like we've talked about conditions, like grass fields aren't easy to kick on. He was nailing long field goals consistently. It just for whatever reason last year all of a sudden he just got the yips.
Hmm.
Whether that's a thing that can be conditioned or not,
What
don't
usually
know.
happens after a kicker has a big moment like that, and they seem to go through that?
I mean, the
Not
issue is
good.
going to be right is he needs to have
They're done.
something that he needs something to reverse his confidence, and I don't know what that is because you can't really get that
Give him a
from.
swift pat on the ass and say nice job after he hits a 32-yarder against the
Yeah.
Cardinals. I
Yeah.
mean, what are you going to do? There's no confidence builder unless he hits a massive kick. But again, do we trust him in that moment where we need a massive kick?